Trick number 1. Be the first or the last, a good rule of thumb that Hollywood filmmakers use with success. We remember best what we see at the beginning and at the end. If the beginning was exciting and the ending was unexpected and interesting, you will like the movie. Even if it wasn't as interesting in the middle. It also happens when communicating with people. For example, if you are to be interviewed for a new job, try to be one of the first candidates on the day of the interview. Or vice versa, one of the last. This way the potential employer will remember you better. The same goes for the conversation. If you initially made a positive impression, and at the end told a funny joke or something very interesting, then the interlocutor will have a positive impression of the meeting with you. Even if something went wrong during the conversation. Write your favorite movie in the comments. Regardless of the movie, I'm sure you must have been thrilled with the ending. Number 2. Mirror image. How do you get someone to like you, even someone you barely know? Try to repeat his behavior. When communicating, try to make similar gestures, facial expressions, or speak at the same pace of speech. New York University conducted a large study on a similar chameleon effect. The experiment showed that people subconsciously show sympathy for the interlocutor with similar behavior. We like people who remind us of ourselves in some way. You can use this in an important meeting, or to get the approval of your interlocutor. Number 3. If you want to win over someone you don't know in just a few seconds, use a simple tip. Try to look at the color of your interlocutor's eye. This is a great trick for those who have trouble making eye contact. You only need 3 to 5 seconds to determine the color of your eyes. That's enough to arouse sympathy. Longer eye contact can lead to tension. A person who makes long eye contact is more likely to cause resentment and fear. Number 4. Fight or flight. Despite centuries of evolution, there are still mechanisms in our brains that were found in primitive humans. When faced with danger, a human being has 2 options: fight or flee. 1,000 years ago this situation occurred when encountering a dangerous beast. These emotions are experienced by the suspect during interrogation, or by teenagers during parental questioning. In both cases, the heart rate increases, the adrenaline in the blood rises sharply, and the arms and legs become vigorous. But a person cannot escape from the interrogation. So he unconsciously tries to release this energy. The person may fidget, rub their hands, touch their hair, or make unnatural gestures before lying. At times when a person lies, his body temperature rises. That is why many people, especially men, tend to touch the collar. For example, pulling it away to get air under your clothes and cool down a bit. Keep this in mind to spot a liar in conversation. Number 5. Use silence. When you are in a small space with someone, silence usually makes you feel extremely uncomfortable. You can use this to your advantage to get the truth out of the person. When you want an honest answer to your question, remain silent after the person has answered you. It will create tension in the person you're talking to if he's lying. He will think you know and want to hear the truth. That way you can make sure you hear an honest answer to your question. In addition to this, you can look the person on the forehead instead of in the eyes. At this point, most interlocutors will feel uncomfortable and want to end the conversation quickly, and for this they will immediately tell the truth. Number 6. Compliments. Everyone likes to hear compliments about themselves. Most Americans start a conversation by complimenting the person they are talking to. They may praise your shirt, the print on your t-shirt, your cool glasses, your hair. Such conversation starters are the absolute norm in the United States, and even though over time people get used to hearing such compliments, it still puts them in a positive mood. I'm sure that most of our viewers do not live in America. That's your advantage. Our people like to hear compliments just as much as Americans do. Try starting a conversation with someone you don't know with a little compliment about a detail in their appearance. In this way the person you are talking to will immediately begin to feel sympathy for you. Of course, you don't have to think that he will be crazy about you, but the mood of the interlocutor will definitely be better. And if you want a person to like you, a compliment can also be useful. But it has to be more targeted. People like to be rewarded. The best reward for a person is the recognition of his work. If you know that the person you're talking to has been working hard at something, you can compliment him on it. For example, if you have information that a woman or man has spent a lot of time and effort to lose weight, be sure to note how great shape they are in. They will love you almost immediately. You can also celebrate professional achievements or personal achievements. This is all very nice to hear. Number 7. The technique of "tell me, please." How to quickly establish contact with a stranger and arouse his sympathy. You have to let him help you. Most people experience more positive emotions by helping rather than receiving help. For example, on your first day at a new job, you want to make contact with a colleague. Just ask him or her to give you a hint. Something insignificant. For example, find out the nearest cafe to the office. It is not difficult for the interlocutor to do this. In doing so, he will have a good feeling that he has helped and you will be able to get in touch with him much faster. Number 8. The 5-second rule. According to psychologists, when we have contact with a stranger, it takes us only 5 seconds to figure out whether we like him or not. If you want to get respect and sympathy from a stranger, you need to think about it in advance. The two main things that the interlocutor will pay attention to during the first contact: appearance and posture. When we talk about appearance, we first of all mean clothes. The principle of dressing like everyone else is wrong, because you cease to stand out in any way. Then it will be difficult to arouse sympathy and interest towards you in the first seconds. This does not mean that clothes should be expensive and frilly. The main thing is that the clothes fit you. The brand and price tag doesn't matter. Posture also says a lot about you. When we slouch, huddle, hide our hands, we subconsciously do not want to show our body. To our interlocutor, this pose says only one thing: he is an insecure person. It is impossible to earn respect in the first seconds of a meeting like this. Remember your posture, don't try to hide your hands in your pockets, and don't look away. The further scenario of your meeting and the quality of your dialogue is just as important. But first impressions can set the tone for the rest of the conversation and ultimately lead to your success or failure. Number 9. The decoy effect. This trick is often used by sellers of various goods. So you can use it to avoid wasting extra money. Suppose you have a product that you want to sell more in your store. Let's say this model of camera that costs $500. For most people to buy it, put a camera for $200 and $1,000 next to it. Most visitors will choose between the three options, the middle one. This is called the compromise effect. We subconsciously don't want to choose extreme options and choose something in between. This effect is used by a huge number of companies, both coffee sellers and car dealers. Number 10. If your interlocutor strokes his chin when talking to you, he is not listening to you. We make these hand gestures when we are thinking hard and don't notice much around us. So if you notice a person doing that, stop and don't say anything important. The person can't hear you anyway. A person leaning back in a chair can also be interpreted in a similar way. His body language makes it clear that he is tired and bored. In short, at times like this, it's better to take a break. If you have a problem remembering names, it can cause a lot of inconvenience, especially in business. People don't really like it when people ask their name back. What to do to remember names better? There's a simple but effective tip. If a person introduces himself in a conversation, use his name several times during the conversation. Begin a question or sentence with the name of the person you are talking to. This way you are almost certain to remember the name and avoid unpleasant situations when you meet. Number 12. Common themes. We tend to feel sympathy for people with whom we have something in common. If you find out during a conversation that the other person likes the same food as you do, prefers similar movies, or has the same hobbies, then take advantage of it. Tell a story from your life related to this topic. For example, during a conversation, the person you are talking to said that he likes superhero movies. And you also like this topic. Be sure to share your impressions of the latest superhero movie or series. Ask your interlocutor questions about it. By finding a common theme, you will become much closer emotionally. Number 14. A favor up front. If you want to get a favor from another person, the best way is to make him owe you one. Simply put, first, you volunteer to help the person you need to do something. Then, when he thanks you, don't say, "No problem." Instead, say, "Please, friends always do that." Now subconsciously the person will feel obligated to help you when you approach him. Number 15. Watch the color of your clothes. Color is an incredibly powerful tool that subconsciously affects a person. That's why it is worth carefully watching what color clothes you wear in a particular situation. If you want to get a job in a serious company, you should avoid very bright colors, such as orange or lettuce. This will scare away a potential employer. It is also worth recalling the shoes. It is clear that it must be clean and neat. Also, the heel is very important, both for men and for women. In addition to making you look taller, a heel gives you more credibility. People tend to think of people wearing shoes with a heel as more professional and experienced. Number 16. Start small. This trick is useful when interacting with other people and when doing something alone. If you know that you have a big important thing to do, chances are that your brain is resisting it with all its might and you can't get started. It's helpful to start small. For example, say to yourself, I'm only going to work for 20 minutes. There is a good chance that after 20 minutes of work, you will continue what you started. You can also divide one big thing into several small parts and do a little bit each day. This technique can also be applied to other people. Suppose you supervise several subordinates. You can just give them instructions in completing tasks. But most likely the productivity of the employees will be small. It's better to divide one big task into several parts and tell workers, let's start with this. That way it's much easier for employees to get started and they'll get the job done faster. Number 17. Don't get personal. It sounds like advice from Captain Obvious, but in fact many people neglect it. Imagine the situation, you are discussing an idea with friends. It could be a meeting at work or a meeting of friends, and so you get into an argument with one of your interlocutors. You run out of arguments and get personal. For example, tell the person that you have more experience, or that he always has bad ideas, or that you know the subject better. Then you think it's a great argument and you siege the interlocutor. But in fact those present begin to perceive you negatively. Your mistake was to criticize the man instead of criticizing his idea. Going off on personalities always puts the accuser in a weak position. Always criticize a specific proposal of the interlocutor and then offer your own solution. In this way you will look confident and earn the respect of others. Number 18. Start the conversation with a joke. Humor is a great tool to start a conversation, especially if you don't know the person very well. We all know that awkward feeling at the beginning of a conversation when we have nothing to say. At this point, a joke will increase the sympathy of the person you're talking to. It is clear that mastering the art of humor is not easy. Some people are better at it than others. That doesn't mean you have to make up jokes. Take jokes from famous comedians and use them in conversation. Everyone loves people with a sense of humor, but don't forget to periodically update your arsenal of jokes. Otherwise you will become a person who tells the same joke several times. In this case, you will not get a sense of sympathy, but rather the opposite. Number 19. Use food to improve relationships. For centuries, eating has brought people together. Serious quarrels and arguments are very rare during meals. If you know that you are going to tell an unpleasant truth to your colleague at work or a loved one, do it during a meal. While eating, people are very busy to fully respond to information. Therefore, they will take unpleasant news more calmly than when they are fully focused on the conversation. The choice of location can reinforce this trick. If you are eating in a crowded place, the presence of other people will be an additional deterrent to avoid arguments. Hunger also causes nervousness. It is a good idea to give the person you are talking to something to eat before you give them unpleasant news. That way his attitude will be calmer. Number 20. Confuse in order to convince. To persuade an opponent you must not give him a chance to think about what you say. For example, you can try to talk fast or confuse your opponent. Suppose you need to sell something to a stranger for $5. Say the price in cents. At first the person will be embarrassed to try to count 500 cents in dollars. In so doing, he will continue to communicate with you. And then the price of $5 compared to 500 cents will seem quite insignificant to him. And he is more likely to buy your product. Number 21. If you want to get your life in order, start by cleaning your room. Sounds like one of those useless quotes from the internet, but it's a whole scientific theory that works. There is a scientific phenomenon called the broken windows theory. It emerged back in the 80s in New York. Sociologists have noticed that petty crime is the main cause of crime in the city. The more broken windows, pickpocketing, and other petty hooliganism there are, the more serious crimes there are. While the authorities struggled with petty crime, the overall crime situation in the city began to improve. This theory can be applied to personal life as well. If you do not keep order in one room, then soon the problems in different areas of your life will begin to accumulate. So if you want to start changing your life tomorrow, just do the cleaning. Number 22. If you're feeling nervous and can't calm down, eat something. It's a simple but effective way to calm down. When a person chews, the brain gets distracted. That's why you shouldn't try to absorb important information while eating. It's hard for the brain to do it all at the same time. So it's better to relax while eating. Number 23. Formulate the request correctly. Let's say you need to ask a friend to help you with things. I'm sure most of you have said, "Could you help me move things on Saturday?" That kind of wording reduces the chances of getting your way. By starting with this phrase, you are not initially formulating a specific request, but asking an abstract question. Therefore, it is much easier to get a rejection. Instead, ask specifically, "Please help me move things on Saturday." Such a formulation of the request dramatically increases your chances of obtaining consent. But at least the person will not make up false excuses, and will refuse only if he is really very busy. Give it a like if you were interested and subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell to be always up to date with new videos. And write your comments.